I want to say welcome everyone to today's webinar. This is the results webinar for the Great Nurdle Hunt. And today we're going to be running through results from the 2023 Great Global Nurdle Hunt and also the results from our 10 years of the Great Nurdle Hunt data. So just quick introductions. I'm Jamie Clarkson, Project Officer here at FIDRA. And we're also joined by my colleague today, Danny Whitlock, who is also here helping out and will be presenting shortly. So, the Great Global Nurdle Hunt is FIDRA's community science project, where we aim to collect evidence of nurdle pollution globally, raise awareness, and call for action from policymakers, industry, and decision makers. Anyone can take part in the Great Global Nurdle Hunt, and it can be at any time of year. However, each year we host the Great Global Nurdle Hunt, which is our special event month where we aim to raise awareness and focus the public attention and policymakers' attention on nurdle pollution. Each year we ask volunteers to search for nurdles around the world and submit their results to our online map, where we collect a database of the evidence of nurdle pollution around the world, which can be used to raise awareness and call for action. Evidence that's been collected by nurdle hunters can be used by organizations around the world in their work to end nurdle pollution in their region and to bring awareness to the issue internationally. 2023 marked a special milestone for the Great Nurdle Hunt, as this was 10 years of the Great Nurdle Hunt project. For those of you familiar with what nurdles are, they are small lentil-sized pieces of plastic, which are the raw plastic material that are used to produce almost all plastic products. However, trillions of these spill into the environment each year throughout the global plastic supply chain. And these nurdles have significant impacts to the environment, to communities, to the health of humans, and also to the health of wildlife. Today, we'll be sharing the results from the 2023 Great Global Nurdle Hunt and the experiences of some of those who have taken part. We'll also be sharing the results from 10 years of the Great Nurdle Hunt. So we'll be looking at what we've managed to find from analysing data from 2013 up to 2023 and sharing the insights of those, and also the stories of some of the nurdle hunters who have taken part over the last 10 years. So with all that said, without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Danny, who will start taking us through the results of the 2023 Great Global Nurdle Hunt.
Thank you so much, Jamie. I hope you can all hear me clearly. If not, just let me know. Yeah, I've got the great job today of sharing with you all this year's really exciting results. So this year's hunt has genuinely been phenomenal. We've had 3 new countries participate in the Great Global Nurdle Hunt, all in Africa, including Tanzania and Ghana, which seems fitting with the 3rd session of the Global Plastics Treaty taking place in Nairobi, Kenya last week. This year, 175 nurdle hunts took place across October, which is just incredible when we saw the world go through so much extreme weather over October, even here in the UK. So we're incredibly grateful to all the organisations and volunteers who turned up and logged their hunts online. We saw so many posts of people nurdle hunting on our social media, and we're aware that some of those organisations were unable to submit their results before our deadline for this year's report. All those nurdle hunts will be included in the yearly results, and then they'll be included in reports going forward. So please keep submitting those. Our annual figures for this year already are well over the 500 nurdle hunt mark. I think we're hopefully going to get to 600 nurdle hunts this year. So it will be great to add that to the database for all our other NGOs to use as well as us. So thanks so much. So we crack on with this year's results. It's phenomenal that we had 58 organisations take part, and that's like over 850 volunteers, because in the first week we had some technical issues and we couldn't even track how many volunteers are submitting data that week. So thanks so much. This year we did see a significant increase in the amount of nurdles found in categories over 100 nurdles. It was 55% of nurdle hunts found 100 or more nurdles, which is an increase on previous years. That didn't move, unless it moved on your screen. There we go. So of the hunts that took place across October, nurdles were reported across 93% of nurdle hunts, which is an increase from previous years. In 2020, our first year of the Great Global Nurdle Hunt, 87% of hunts found nurdles. Then in 2021, that dropped slightly to 79%, whilst last year this was 90% of nurdle hunts found nurdles. There could be bias in this. We know citizen science data is often scrutinised for this, but I think this is clear evidence that shows globally there is a real rise in nurdles being present. And yes, we have organisations and volunteers going out yearly to certain locations, but more and more places are finding nurdles. Of the 18 countries that took part, only Namibia found no nurdles. So I think that just really highlights that there is an increase, and hopefully as more and more results come in, we'll get a fuller picture of the global spread this year. So I'm going to hand over now to Sarah Marshall. She's kindly joined us today, and she's going to give us a quick talk about this incredible community group called Planet Aware that she's a part of. And this year they have been more and more aware of nurdles than they had previously. They've always experienced nurdles, unfortunately, on the Isle of Wight, which is based just off the UK mainland. So yeah, Sarah, are you there? And are you able to unmute?
Hello, hi, how are you?
Great to have you here.
Yes, so I haven't really had time to put very much together, but I can just give you a quick overview of how we found looking for nurdles on the island. As you say, in the past, we've been aware of in certain locations that we can always find nurdles. So where the sea's a bit rougher and a bit wilder, you tend to always find nurdles over winter. But I would say this year we have found many more nurdles, to the point where it's quite depressing, so we're a community group, so we're all volunteers, so we do beach cleans, and for a long time we've been aware of nurdles, but I think the more time you spend on the beach and you're looking for things, the more you start to see, and I think actually the more that you look for nurdles, you become a better nurdle hunter. And it's a bit of a thing that when you're out looking for nurdles and you draw people's attention to them, you suddenly can't unsee a nurdle. So you're kind of raising awareness and feeling good about that, but at the same time you're also bringing people's attention to something that's not that pleasant on the beach. So this year we've made more of a point of doing regular nurdle hunts. We're trying to do one a month, and at the same time raise awareness. So we might, just depending on what time volunteers have, we might just go to the beach and set up a small display, and we'll start looking for nurdles ourselves, do a kind of nurdle survey, submit that data, and people will be walking along the beach, and it's a good opportunity to have conversations and share what we know, and through that way we hope that other people will start then taking on carrying out nurdle hunts as well. This year, I think in August, so the beginning year, there were quite a lot of nurdles. So at the bottom of the island is generally where, if we want to go and look for them, we know they're there. So at the beginning of the year, they were present. And over the sort of stormy winter times, you do notice them. But also that can drag a lot of nurdles either right into the cliffs, or on a slopey beach, it can sort of drag them all the way back down again. So it's one time you can see loads, and the next time they'll sort of disappear, but you know they're there. So it's kind of like the elusive nature of a nurdle. But this time in August, there were several strand lines quite heavily covered with nurdles, and so we went and collected as many and sent some off to the Checkmate project as well. And Yeah, and at one point, because they were so mixed in with sort of other debris, you could have literally, and we did, got dustpan and brush and just swept them off the strand line. And I think for us, it's interesting to start raising awareness of nurdles and recording them more carefully, because you think you'll remember, and you think you'll remember the weather conditions and so on, but you don't. And I think we've started now to create our own map, and we want to put photographs but also keep some sort of diary entry, so we are more aware of the sort of weather conditions and what was going on at the time. So that will help us try and understand how the nurdles come to be in certain numbers, because like I say, sometimes with the stormy weather you expect them to be but there, and other times it sort of just, I don't know, disperses them, or the sand covers them, so it's quite difficult to say they're going to be there at a particular time. But certainly we have had many more this year, and yeah, and it's quite depressing, and that it comes in with a lot of other debris, so you can't even separate them. So but I think trying to start with the nurdle and use that as a way of saying, look, all our plastic products come from these nurdles, and our demand for plastic drives the production of them, is actually a really good thing. So that's why we're very interested in nurdles, because we can look at our plastic use, and weirdly the nurdle is kind of quite an addictive thing, so people want to get involved, and they want to look for them, and children find it quite good fun in a weird ways too. So it's kind of, the nurdle's a really good way to start engaging people over the whole issue of our plastic use. So I think that's probably everything that I need to say, but if you've got a question you can ask me.
No, thank you, that was excellent. It's great to hear that you guys are creating potentially a map of your own to log that to Sarah. We'll definitely have a discussion soon, so we can hopefully support you a bit more. So that's excellent. Thank you. I think Jamie's going to hand over to another speaker now. I don't think Sarah will be around for questions, so please pop them in the chat if you do have any for Sarah, and I will make sure that her email is available afterwards, so that if people do miss sending questions across, they can. So I'll just stop sharing my screen.
Yes, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who is Richmond Kwaku, who has joined us from Ghana. His NGO, Plastic Punch, is taking part in Great Global Nurdle Hunt this year, and I'll hand over to Richmond to explain the fantastic work he's been doing.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Thanks for having us on the call, and it's great to also see the results from this year's Great Nurdle Hunt, and also to see the work of Planet Aware and Sarah and her team. It only demonstrates to us that we have the same issue, and of course that the plastic pollution menace is a global one, and we need that collective action. And by mobilizing our communities in this very important citizen engagement, it is one of the ways to understand further and in knowing how to combat this menace. My name is Richmond. I'm the director at Plastic Punch. We are an NGO in Ghana, and raising awareness on the plastic pollution menace. We use citizen science. We are a great believer in using citizen science to inspire behavioral change, because we definitely need evidence-based advocacy in these days. So this will be showing you a little bit of our work in Ghana, and also how we use the Nurdle Hunt in our advocacy, for advocacy purposes, and also raising awareness. The next slides will be pretty disturbing and not representative of Ghana at all. So it is great to only show you how beautiful it is. And if you've not visited, please come check it out. Unfortunately, because of ineffective waste management systems, this is how you could find some of the beaches where we work. There's also an influx of single-use plastics, and in some areas where we work, fisher folks are already catching more plastics than fishes. That's to say how devastating the issue is and impacting livelihoods in some of the areas where we work. We started as a response to this turtle monitoring session. Ghana is also home to a lot of sea turtles, We started as a response to this 5 years ago, where we went for a turtle monitoring session. There were dead turtles. We could not scientifically diagnose the cause of death by looking at the beach and all the turtles. We found there was a link and decided to act. The one on the far right was physically entangled. And so we starting by bringing the community together, just like Sarah and her team does with Planet Aware. To come into contact with the problem, we also clean on very wild beaches we call wild, where the community does not necessarily or normally would come into contact with, to see how the beach is looking like. So you can see all the energy behind the beach cleanups, all these punches, plastic punch, and then we keep punching. We are very much aware that the beach cleanups are not a solution. It's one of the strongest tools at the NGO, which really raises awareness and also helps us to collect relevant data on what is polluting and who is polluting. Because we are inspiring behavioral change, we make our beach cleanups plastic-free, so that volunteers could also get inspired from local and indigenous ways we used to come into contact with food and drinks before the plastic pollution, before plastic came here in Ghana, or got rapidly influxed into the economy about some 15, 20 years ago. I grew up on very clean beaches in Ghana, but most of these beaches I cannot be proud to even take you to show you. That is to tell you how devastating it is. So this is to draw attention to what we used to do before: organic waste, reuse systems, etc. There's also to encourage volunteers to bring their reusable bottle, and we also collect the data on the beach in a very specific way, where we have adopted this OSPA protocol and other protocols. Ideally, we want to recycle as much as possible, not to be in the business of moving the trash from the beach to the landfill. And we find a lot. It's crazy what we find. We also collect data. Every volunteer is very specific to how much they've collected. Everyone wants to know their personal impact on the day as well. So we do not find only plastics. Volunteers stick to specific items. If they are picking shoes, they pick shoes, so that we are able to know what are recyclable and non-recyclable to determine all these rates. I'll run through a quick demonstration of what pollutants we find on our beaches. And you can see a variety of stuff: ties, single-use plastics, and this is from the data from one of the areas where we work. So over the years, this has been what we've been doing, using this data to advocate for facing down problematic plastics in Ghana, as well as using these data sets to also understand what are awareness efforts in the communities that we serve. So we track these pollutants over the period to be able to know what is coming in more, etc. We do the what we call a brand audit to be able to advocate for the extended producer responsibility regime, which is now, we are negotiating this in Ghana. So this is where we collect data on which brands are polluting. So in a nutshell, this is what we do with the beach cleanup data, and you can agree with me, we find needles on the beach. So then it was really great to know about needles through FIDRA and also the Nurdle Hunt, Nurdle Patrol in the US. These are the two organizations that reached out to us that this is something really great we should do.
What Legacy is doing, to me,
this is a small testimony from one of the areas where we work, and I felt we should put this in to show how we were able to stop flooding just by looking at data sets. This is to motivate all of us that the small data that we collect in our locations goes a long way to impact people directly in our communities.
What Legacy is doing, to me, is very, very important, because collecting these plastics, the toxic waste from the plastic that is causing aquatic death is reduced. And then this year, when we had flood, no water entered into anybody's room, and nobody complained about flooding too, because the system is now clear. Plastic pipes may not know all the sources of these plastics. But if you engage community participation, they will now bring in from all the obscure corners. Then plastic will be out from our midst.
So that's the testimony from the MEHO, Metropolitan in one of the communities we work. This also is from Semnet. And if we decide not to act or collect the nettles, for example, or plastics in Ghana, this is where it's going to end up spilling up at the end of the world. There's the reverse model as well, and you are invited to check this out for us to really realize that it's one ocean, one planet, and we all have a role to play in this menace. So let's go to the Nurdle Hunt. And this we've been doing since this year, and already we've spread it across 5 communities where we work. We've built capacity in this. Buzua, which is number 4 on the list, really far on the eastern side of Ghana, is the only beach where we do not find nettles. It's also because we suspect because there's less industrial activities over there. Very chill and quiet. So we want to believe that's the reason why there's not so much port activities over there. So we want to believe that's why we do not find nettles over there. However, the other communities where we've been working with the plastics, when we started looking closer, like Sarah mentioned, and started to look at these nettles and raising more awareness, we started to get scared actually, because the amount of nettles or number of nettles we find in few minutes, it's really crazy. So then we felt that every time we do a beach cleanup, we add a Nurdle Hunt, and also to specific communities and volunteers stationed in these communities, they carry out these Nurdle Hunts because we've built capacity in all these communities for them to be able to identify, collect, and also report to us. And after we verify the pictures and everything, we upload onto the model. It would be really great, like Sarah said, also to be able to get an ArcGIS model to be able to represent, though we always point our stakeholders to the global hunt, the global maps, which is available and which is great to see the extent of which it is. I think it's also really great to localize these maps if there's capacity. So a few more pictures. The one on the far right was from the program in Kwaisin. Kwaisin is a program we have over here with the University of Michigan. It's a UN decade endorsed program where we build capacity in ocean sciences in Africa. And we do a lot of different citizen science tools. And this year at Kwaisin, with participants, 150 participants from Ghana, Nigeria, Somalia, Kenya, professors from the United States and Europe. We built capacity in this Nurdle Hunt as well. And all these people from these countries are also very motivated to spread Nurdle hunting in their countries. So we should be expecting more data sets. And yeah, so this is to show a little bit of the team, and I'll rush through a few tools that we have. We have a Turtle app, we have theater series. You're invited to check on YouTube. We do workshops, we have a game, animations, we plug at marathons, and I'll end by this way, showing one of the beaches where we work. This is how the beach was looking March 2019, and we got it clean with the collaborative efforts of all volunteers. By January 2020, this is how clean it was looking. Turtles started to come back, in more, or we started to identify them more. And COVID came, and just by September, this is how it looked like. We would all agree that fishes and the marine mammals did not create this trash. All of this came from our home. And that brings us their responsibility to shift more to reuse systems and be more responsible for these ways. So it's still continuous, and when it's clean, we try to play on the beach. So thank you for our this note, and I really appreciate your attention, and I'm more punching for people and planets.
Thank you so much. That was very, very interesting. And yeah, it's horrifying, some of the images. It really does make you think that there's more to be done. And your organisation is phenomenal for everything it's been doing, Richmond. Thank you so much. I've seen there's a question for you, but we'll go to that towards the end of the webinar so we can keep moving. I'm now going to be sharing a presentation from Save a Fishy. They are this incredible organisation based in South Africa, and it all started with a very formidable woman called Zoe Frinslu, I hope I pronounced her name right. She's unable to be at today's webinar, but we will share her contact details, and hopefully if you have any questions that we aren't able to answer, we'll be able to send them across her way. So I'm just going to quickly go through some of her slides about this organisation. They are a community organisation that was started by Zoe. I think she was potentially 16, started in 2018, so very young. Yes, at the age of 16. So she's been working to clean beaches. She's an incredible advocate for the environment and to tackle pollution. She's also part of Girl Guides, and with the Girl Guide group that she works with, she's managed to do over 250 cleanups, and she's removed 17.5 tons of litter from beaches. And so I think her Nurdle story really started back in 2017 when there was this large catastrophic spill on the Durban harbour in South Africa. 49 tons of nurdles ended up in the ocean from 2 containers. And since then, South Africa, along with other regions of Africa, the US and Australia, have also been experiencing the effects of this nurdle spill. So nurdle pollution has become increasingly common around South Africa. They have a very large presence of industry there too. And so there's not just Save the Fishes, there's lots of incredible organisations in South Africa that are trying to tackle this. We've had some present before on our webinar series for solutions to pollution. But yeah, this is one of just a great organisation that's worked across 111 beaches, and they found nurdles on 41 of those beaches. And there's a full list of all the beaches if you are in that area and you are curious. So yeah, they've been an incredible asset to the Great Global Nurdle Hunt. There's been lots of young volunteers involved and engaging, and Save a Fishy really focus on raising awareness, continuing cleanups through the awareness. They do hunts all year round, similar to a lot of organisations like Planet Aware, just to really encourage and facilitate identifying the problem. And then the Girl Guides, I think it might have been set up in the US, I'm not entirely sure, but they created a Nurdle Hunt badge. So lots of young girls now all over the world who are part of Girl Guides, because it's this big international organisation, do go out and do Nurdle hunts. So if any of you have got some young children in your life and they are in Girl Guides and you want them to be more involved in environmental advocacy, then I suggest telling your Girl Guides about this incredible Nurdle hunting badge that they can collect. So it's not always just the basic survival. The Nurdle pollution badge is brilliant too. So yeah, I just thought I'd share their work because they've been so incredible this year. Before I then pass you back to Jamie, who's going to talk to us now about the last 10 years and the ride that FIDRA have been on with all you incredible organisations out there. So thank you.
Thanks, Danny. So yes, as Danny says, this year in 2023 marked 10 years of the Great Nurdle Hunt project here at FIDRA. And that's 10 years of amazing individuals and organizations around the world collecting this vital data and evidence of nurdle pollution globally, raising awareness through the nurdle hunts and through engagement with industry and policymakers and decision makers. And to mark this 10-year anniversary, we really wanted to dig into the data from 10 years. So we sought to analyze 10 years worth of nurdle hunt data and see what insights we could pull from that. So next slide, please. So, thank you. So this is the first map we wanted to show you. So each of these dots on this map represent a nurdle hunt that has reported nurdle finds, or some of them haven't. It's important if you don't find nurdles in your nurdle hunts also to report them. This is just as important as knowing where the nurdles are. But in the 10 years, there's been an amazing 7,144 nurdle hunts reported around the world, which is an incredible number. And these nurdle hunts have taken place, nurdles have been reported, on every continent, with the exception of Antarctica, which really shows the scale of this problem. And 86% of all nurdle hunts found nurdles, which is a staggering amount, really. Between 2013 and 2023, there have also been 64 major nurdle spill events that have been documented. This includes on land and at sea. And some of these examples are the Express Pearl disaster in Sri Lanka, the Durban spill in South Africa, which Danny mentioned just a few minutes ago, and also spills in New Orleans in the USA. And that's just a fraction of these spills which happen globally. The greatest number of hunts have been reported in North America, followed by Europe, then Africa and the Middle East, then Australia and Oceania, Asia, South America, and then Antarctica. So everyone is getting involved, which is fantastic to see. And it's vital that we continue to gather this evidence and build up the database around nurdle pollution. Every hunt, every bit of evidence really helps to, when we take it to policymakers, decision makers, industry, to really show the true scale of this problem, and it helps us gather a clearer picture of this global scale of this problem. So the next map I want to show you is, so this map here shows all the countries who have taken part in a nurdle hunt over the last 10 years. And as you can see, there have been nurdle hunts from Canada to Kenya, from Scotland to South Korea, and everywhere in between. So nurdle hunts have happened on all 7 continents, including Antarctica. And a total of 73 countries have participated in the Great Nurdle Hunt. Of these 73 countries, 66 of them have reported finding nurdle pollution, which really shows again how this is really a problem that can impact all nations, really. Globally, there are 144 countries who are involved in the import of plastics in its primary form, and 123 countries who export plastics, which again really shows that the plastic supply chains are an international network and they crisscross all over the world. And it also shows that no nation is safe from plastic pollution, as a lot of some of the nations who have reported nurdle pollution in through the nurdle hunts don't produce nurdles themselves. They are not nurdle producers. So even if your country doesn't have necessarily a plastic industry, then they can still be impacted by nurdle pollution and nurdle spills. And next slide, please. So this graph here, we wanted to show the percentage of nurdle hunts that found nurdles. And the data over the last 10 years has shown that not a single year, has dipped below 80% of nurdle hunts finding nurdles. And this really shows that the level of nurdles in the environment is persistent. It's remaining at a high level. And this will continue to be the case as plastics, obviously, they don't really degrade the environment for a very long time. So as more are going in there, they're just accumulating. They're not going anywhere. So these are persistent. And next slide, please. So this graph, we wanted to show the proportion of nurdle finds. So on our nurdle map, when nurdle hunters have reported their nurdle hunts, we asked them to submit how many they found, and we put these into these categories. And one thing we'd like to draw attention to is that from 2019 up to 2023, there has been a steady increase in the number of nurdle hunts which have reported between 101 and 1,000 nurdles. And this is showing a steady increase over this time. Obviously, the more data we have, the more that we can extrapolate from this. But this does suggest that the prevalence, the volume of nurdles entering the environment is increasing, and we're seeing more nurdles in higher volumes being reported in our nurdle hunts. So we also want to say thank you to all of the amazing organisations and NGOs who've taken part in the Great Global Nurdle Hunt. And it wouldn't be possible without all the amazing dedicated volunteers and organisations who head out and look for these nurdles and report them to us. So between 2013 and 2023, a staggering 20,457 volunteers have taken part, with 395 organisations. And the amount of time spent nurdle hunting is the equivalent to 1 year and 11 months of consistent non-stop nurdle hunting, which is quite a lot of time. I think we can all agree. And we would like to thank everyone who has taken part and everyone who continues to take part and is planning on taking part in the future going forward. And unfortunately, we can't thank all of the nurdle hunters individually, but we would like to highlight a selection of the nurdle hunters who have taken part in the last 10 years and some of the work they've done. I also would like to direct you to our report, which we released, our 10-year report, where we have a lot more information and case studies on people who have taken part, so you can read even more about them there and the amazing work they've been doing. But the first one I'd like to discuss is the Good Karma Project. So these guys are an amazing NGO based in Spain, I'm going to mess up the pronunciation, Tarragona in Spain. And these beaches have been significantly impacted by nurdle pollution due to local industry in the area. And when they first took part in the Great Global Nurdle Hunt in 2021, the Good Karma Project collected over 700,000 nurdles in only a few hours. Then the next year, they went out again for the 2022 Great Global Nurdle Hunt, and this total grew to 1,835,000 nurdles found, which is an incredible amount of plastics just on those beaches. They estimate that there were, on one of the beaches they were working on, that there were 90 to 120 million pellets on a single beach. And as you can see from this picture, with the literal buckets of nurdles that have been recovered by the Good Karma Project, it is a serious problem. The next one I'd like to highlight is Arosha, who are an international organization who have done work they work in the USA, in France, in Kenya, and beyond. They first took part in the Great Global Nurdle Hunt in 2015, and they use the Great Global Nurdle Hunt as part of their environmental education program to help educate groups about plastic pollution in their areas. So that's a really good example of how the Great Global Nurdle Hunt can be used also to help educate others and teach people. It's a very engaging way of doing so. The next one I would like to talk about is from Australia, and these are Tangaroa Blue. And these Tangaroa Blue have been taking part in the Great Global Nurdle Hunt since, sorry, my slides just dipped, for many years. They first joined in 2013, and they continue to take part up to this day. They engage with the public and industry and policymakers to help educate them on the sources of plastic pollution. In one of the most successful engagements that they've done was in 2019, where over 50 industry representatives took part in nurdle hunts organised by Tangaroa Blue. And many were shocked, many of the industry volunteers were shocked at the level of pellet pollution that they found. So they've been very, very active in engaging industry and really trying to bring attention to the issue of pellet pollution They also took part in one of our webinars in our Solutions to Pellet Pollution series, which is available on our YouTube channel. And they went into depth in a case study of some of the work they've been doing, which I highly recommend going back and watching for some ideas of how an organization has managed to take some really positive steps in their region. And the founder of it, Heidi Tate, makes the case that nurdles are the most preventable type of plastic pollution. I think that's key, that nurdles are an extremely preventable source of plastic pollution, that they can be stopped with preventative measures put in place. And we hope that we can all continue to push for those measures and see them come in. And with that, if you have any questions, please add them into the chat. And I'll hand back to Danny to discuss about the impacts.
Thank you so much. So yeah, I just think I wanted to just re-emphasize the impact of these nurdle hunts goes so much further than the beach. So many organisations use our hunts and helps them justify funding, or it helps them justify research. We've had many researchers all over the world use our data, and then they added it and contributed to research that had then been scrutinized by other academics. So it's really robust. Citizen science can often get criticism, but I honestly think that the world is at such a better place for it, and our organisation wouldn't be what it is without you all. So yeah, we just feel very humbled that we get to talk about this project, and we've got to talk about this project for 10 years. So I just thought I'd quickly share what we've managed to do because of all the volunteer efforts and the privilege we've had of working with all these different NGOs. Here are a couple of pictures. We were able to talk about nurdles at COP26, and we've been able to talk directly with politicians in Scotland and in the UK. We've presented at the International Marine Debris Conference in South Korea last year, which was a huge moment for us. We got to interact and meet in person a lot of our NGOs that we work with in Asia. So that was really a humbling experience. We generated a real impact, particularly the development of the Scottish Government Pellet Loss Steering Group back at the beginning of the Great Global Nurdle Hunt, but very much within the depths of the Nurdle Hunt project. Also, PASS 510 standard was developed to determine best practice for handling and managing plastic pellets, flakes and powders. And we've even had nurdles brought up on the international agreements and tackling pellets via OSPAR, for example. So the last 10 years, we've gone from questioning what's this microplastic to really championing it. And this year alone, we've seen real improvements with the IMO, thanks to NGOs, including Fauna and Flora. They've really pushed to identify pellets as harmful, so that they're seen as marine pollutants, so they're better managed. We've had the opportunity of working with Oracle environmental experts that have helped us map the global plastic supply chain. It was something a lot of our NGOs really, really needed, and it's great to see it being used. I think it's been downloaded now over 1,000 times, and we've started to see it crop up in people's presentations. So it's great that that's being used, and hopefully people will start making their own maps from that. We've also, our team, predominantly Jamie and Heather, I can't take any of the credit really, worked incredibly hard during in the run-up to the third round of negotiations for the Global Plastics Treaty to create this brief that's in the middle picture here, really trying to address what we need to address plastic pellets at this international level. It was co-signed by the Environmental Investigation Agency and Fauna and Flora. And on to what both Sarah and Richmond mentioned, our next webinar in our series is actually going to be a short introduction to using nurdle data. We're not mapping technical experts, so I need to preface that straight away, but we are going to spend time in this short webinar going through the data that we have available and how you would create a simple map from the data using free software called QGIS to then add it to your own reports, add it to your own websites, and to like help you build and portray the message of this pollution spreading. So if you are a technical expert and you want to turn up to answer questions, we welcome you. But this session is aimed at a beginner level. It should then help people that have downloaded our report that was authored by our Oracle environmental experts, then use that data further for themselves. So this webinar will be taking place the week commencing the 4th of December. We'll confirm the date and time as soon as possible. We just want to make sure that people that have asked for this type of data can hopefully attend. It's very hard getting all the different time zones created for, but again, this, like the webinar you're watching right now, will be recorded and it will be added to our hub. So you will be able to watch it. So make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss out on our YouTube channel. So yeah, I think it's perhaps now time to dive into any questions. I think the chat has been going off. I just